Timing could not have been better, guys. The game is underway. Unfortunately, yeah, that's right. Camera's always off. Alrighty, guys. Probably the best fade out I've done so far in the 2 days. One thing I'm going to have to perfect over the next few days is that fade. Anyways, guys, here we are tonight. StarsBoba versus Mineski. Grand Finals actions at the GEST IDC. This is it, guys. This is where everything comes as all these teams fight for their piece of the $30,000. And here we are at the end of the road, at least for this mini tournament, where I think about $2,500 is up for grabs as Mineski and StarsBoba are in the finals, and the bands, the picks, it's getting underway, guys. Unfortunately, my screen disappeared, so there we go. That'll do. And Mineski on the Sentinel side, StarsBoba on the Scourge side. StarsBoba has had an interesting road to the finals. They were the only team who actually won, like flat out won their group. They finished top of their group, didn't need any tiebreakers. Every other group required a tiebreak matches to be played. StarsBoba finished just flat out top. They struggled a bit through the playoffs, though. They lost their first round match to Mith.trust, got put down into the loser brackets, where they went up against another strong Thai team, Neolution Esports, who have had some great past success. They beat Orange in this tournament, but Neolution could not defeat StarsBoba. StarsBoba rolled through them, and then followed that, they had to go up against Mith.trust in the loser bracket finals, and this is going to be the grand finals now. They come through the loser bracket, and StarsBoba, having defeated both Neolution as well as Mith.trust, are now in the grand finals. Mineski, on the other hand, they've had a bit of a smoother run to the finals. Their group stage, they were convincing. They were very, very convincing. They won against Invasion Red as well as Ideal. Fairly straightforward games. Then they had a game against Velocity Hyper, which in the group stage was a 1-1 tie. It was two very close games. Well, not too much two very close games, but an overall a close series where Mineski won their game really convincingly. Velocity won their game fairly convincingly. Then, at the end, we had a Game 3 tiebreaker to decide which of the two teams went through the group, and Mineski Velocity, the tiebreak match was absolutely epic. Mineski came out on top, made it through the playoffs, and playoffs, they have just shown. They have been very, very impressive in the playoffs here. They beat Neolution Esports in the first round, then they beat Mith.trust in the winner brackets finals, and here they are in the grand finals. They've been waiting for an hour and a half for their opponents in the grand finals, and here they are. And I'm being spammed, guys. Everyone in the chat, just chill out. Don't spam too much. Otherwise, I have to do some nasty things to people. But yeah, anyways, this is going to be StarsBoba versus Mineski Grand Finals. For those of you who are wondering about the format, is it best of 1, best of 3? It is best of 3 in a sense, but Mineski started with a 1-game lead. So basically, Mineski only have to win 1 game. StarsBoba have to win 2 straight games. If Mineski win either this game or the next game, they are the champions. If StarsBoba win both games, StarsBoba are the champions here. Anyways, looking at the band's picks, I've talked enough about myself. I'll quick mention, huge shout out to everyone at GoDz who is putting in hard work, uploading replays, updating all the coverage stuff. So shout out to Congo Time, Raceland, all the guys uploading replays as well, who put in hard work to make this tournament possible. But enough talking about myself and other people. Let's talk about these two teams, because that is what is making this tournament possible. These two teams being here, StarsBoba and Mineski. StarsBoba on the Scourge team, Mineski on the Sentinel team. First pick was in the StarsBoba court. They banned the Broodmother, the Invoker, and the Queen of Pain. Queen of Pain, one of those heroes that Mineski does use to great effect, and we do see them picking up the Lycan as their first pick. Mineski banned the Syllabear, Lich, and Batrider, which makes me think, Mineski, you cheeky devils, they definitely saw that last match where StarsBoba with the Syllabear managed to mount an epic don't know about if you can call it a comeback, but they were definitely behind in terms of farm and gold and just about everything you could imagine. They were behind, but they just in the end grouped up as 5 heroes and just pushed, took racks, using all their stacking as many auras as they can, using a Syllabear as their main tank and damage dealer. So Mineski saw that and said, okay, we don't want to verse Syllabear. What they didn't consider, or maybe they did consider, but they're okay with, is that Lycan was still in the pool. StarsBoba first picked that Lycan without a second thought, but Mineski gets some basically trademark heroes of their own. They're going to get the Earthshaker and Windrunner. We're going to see Earthshaker probably being played by Woots as one of these supporting heroes, and we're going to see Windrunner probably in the hands of Jay. Jay normally plays that side lane solo Windrunner, which we did see earlier today. We also saw him go absolutely on the feed train earlier today, where he had about 8 deaths in 10 minutes. But some exciting stuff coming out of him as well, because he did manage to pull himself around. That was a game against Mith.trust where he absolutely fed this Invoker. But this game, hopefully something different if he is in fact playing that Windrunner. Then StarsBoba pick up a couple more heroes we saw last game, Clockwork and Venomancer. This makes me think they could be going for a similar kind of strategy to last game, where they stack auras, use these sort of nuking heroes, and just push. And look, there's your Vengeful Spirit. This looks like the exact same lineup as last game, except instead of Syllabear, they've got Lycan. And frankly speaking, Lycan does what Syllabear does even better. The only issue is Mineski quite smartly banned the Prophet, so they're not going to be able to pick up that Prophet as their 5th hero. It means they will have to go for something different. They could go for something like an Enigma. I mean, put an Enigma in jungle, and it can function similar to a Prophet, just with less mobility. So that could be the hero of choice for StarsBoba for that last pick. But elsewhere we see Mineski with their 3rd pick picked up Shadow Demon. We're probably going to see that in the hands of RR. He plays their support Shadow Demon, and he plays it well. He plays it exceptionally well. Their last game against Mith.trust, he was probably one of the MVPs. In my eyes, he was the MVP of that game. He was the support Shadow Demon. You don't normally put much highlight on the support Shadow Demon, but he won that game for them. Obviously had some help from it was a whole team effort, but he played exceptionally well, didn't make any mistakes. And anyways, that gets us to our last few picks here. We see the DK and Puck being banned by StarsBoba, Mineski banning both Panda and Prophet, and StarsBoba picking up Vengeful Spirit as their 4th pick and Rasta as their last pick. Once again, as I said, they want to push. They may lose their lanes, they may get out-farmed, but when it comes to that 25-minute mark, they group up together as 5, and they just go straight down the enemy lines as 5 heroes. They stack Mech, Pipe, Vlads, Django. They get all these auras. They have their summons. They have the Venomancer Plague Wards. They have the Rasta Serpent Wards. They have the Lycan Wolves. And that is a lot of summons, a lot of pushing power. And that is going to be scary and hard for Mineski to defend. They're going to need some kind of spam to defend it, which they've sort of got with the ES and Windrunner. They've got the spamming capabilities. Slaughter's going to have to go for that early Vanguard so he can just tank up and run in there to tank everything. And they may be able to hold off that 25 to 30 minute mid-game push. And the last pick is going to be a Tiny. So we're going to see a solo mid Tiny. We're going to see Jules and Oa playing, I'm presuming, the Tiny and the Slaughter. Who is on what? What is going on in this game, guys? Grand Finals action. Here we are, live, and on the Mineski team, starting things off, we've got RR, as expected, playing that support Shadow Demon. We've got Woots on the Earthshaker, going to be at that bottom lane as well. Slaughter played by Oa, which leaves Jules in charge of the Windrunner, actually, so it's not going to be Jay on the Windrunner. Jay is on the Tiny, solo mid Tiny being played by Jay. Jules must have been saying, okay, you fed too much last time, I'm going to be playing the Windrunner this time. Or maybe he was just feeling it a bit more, but needless to say, Windrunner going to be soloing top, Tiny at mid, and the tri-lane is going to be mostly at bottom, although we may see some roaming coming out of the ES or the Shadow Demon. On the StarsBoba side, what are they up to? What are they doing? Last game they had Clockwork solo mid. Are they going to do that again? They have got a Shadow Shaman that could also fit as a solo mid, but it doesn't look like we will see Shadow Shaman soloing that mid lane. Venomancer doing some early warding. Walks all the way bottom by himself, so he firstly wards this spot here, giving vision of this hill as well as the rune spot. And I presume he's going to put a ward maybe here. No, he puts a Plague Ward first, and he's going to put this ward here to block both these two spawns. I at least believe that's what he's trying to do here. He will be using these Plague Wards just to make sure he's safe. He's actually going to put an interesting ward spot over to the left here. So he's not actually blocking this pull. Or he might be blocking this pull. I'm not sure if that actually blocks. We're going to have to wait and see. But on the StarsBoba team, hold on a sec, guys. I need to introduce them properly. We have got David21 on the Venomancer at the bottom lane. At mid lane, we've got Bachu playing the Clockwork. At top lane, we've got Rasta being played by Yuna, Vengeful Spirit played by Archie, and finally in the jungle, it's going to be Rekka, who is initially summoning those wolves from base, so he has more mana. It's going to be a farming Rasta at top. Last game, what happened though, is that Venomancer could not get any farm at bottom, so Clockwork got some early XP, then basically went around ganking while the Venomancer took over mid lane. So Venomancer may just start out at bottom while Clockwork gets some early levels, and then they could do something similar to last game where Clockwork switches, goes bottom, and Venomancer takes over mid lane, starts pressuring it with those Plague Wards, and gets some catches up on farm and items. As we saw Venomancer, his mech and Django last game just came in so much use, was so important in that victory last game. Top lane, VS, Rasta gets a stun off, no follow-up from Rasta. Rasta decides we're not going to get this and backs off a bit, and that's a bit costly for VS, who takes some right-click damage there, as we see Windrunner getting a few right-clicks. VS is going to loop around again, which means Windrunner's going to have to back off very, very soon. There's a fork, there's no actual shackle, one more right-click, and he's used the Windrun. He used the Windrun just before the stun, but it's not going to be enough. The salve comes, he wastes the salve, Jules goes down once again, Yuna getting the first blood, and oh my gosh, a great start here for StarsBoba, as once again they get the first blood, much like last game. They love getting that first blood. It really sets the tempo for them. And Jules, he does not like to die. Whenever I've seen him die and give first blood, last time I saw him die and give first blood, he was a solo bottom priestess on Scourge, and he ended up dying so many times. And I think that was the one game Mineski lost, when they lost to Velocity Hyper, was when Jules was playing a side lane solo against a tough lane, and he just kept on dying. So this could be bad news for Mineski. Jules is such a key player for them. If he gets behind in terms of farm and levels, it could be costly for them. They need to, well, he needs to make sure he just stays concentrated, and doesn't fall down to those easy deaths. Death like that shouldn't happen. You know what your opponents can throw at you, and you should be prepared for VS looping around like we saw there, and Jules just getting a bit caught out there. Mid lane though, Tiny against Clockwork, a fairly even matchup. But Chu, once again, playing that Clockwork. We've got Jay on Tiny, and we're going to see, as always, Bottle Crow coming out of Mineski, who do have the 2 chicken couriers. Both Windrunner as well as Tiny will be using that Bottle Crow, and ES has actually come top. So I think this is smart. Woods is the captain of this Mineski team, and I think he's saying, okay, if Jules has already died once, if he starts dying over and over again, this game is going to slowly snowball out of control. So he is going to be backing up Jules at this top lane, making sure he can get some early farm. And I definitely like this decision coming from him, because what's happening at bottom is basically Shadow Demon and Slaughter can dual lane and absolutely crush the Venomancer. They don't need ES at bottom lane. So this is smart reactions from Mineski, and what they're doing here is an action gank at mid as Clockwork gets very close to killing this Tiny, who has no regen left. 1 rocket's all that's needed. He's using the Clarity. Oh, Clarity gets cancelled by a creep. Unlucky. And by now, Tiny has actually regened enough HP with those Tangos, but loses the Clarity from those creeps. Will throw the rocket here. It's not going to be enough damage. He does actually hit. The Tangos are being used, though. Bottle has arrived, and that means Bottle Crow action is a go, and Tiny is off. Tiny is going to be fine now. He can just use all these bottle charges. Doesn't even need to get a rune. Can just send the bottle back to base, and then you can even see how he's spamming that. And this is what I'm talking about. StarsBoba are doing the exact same strategy as last game, where Venomancer changes lanes and comes mid, takes over mid lane, and Clockwork then decides, okay, I'll go up against the hard lane, because Clockwork is tankier, has the cogs to help survive, and we will see him probably okay at this bottom lane. Needs to be careful. Oh, the stun is going to hit though. Clockwork, oh no, he will go down almost immediately at bottom lane. I was just talking up how he should be fine at this bottom lane, but the Shadow Demon, that disruption cast range is just so long and hard to go up against, and we will see what looks to be a dual lane against dual lane at top, but the problem is Lycan is free farming in neutrals. He has not really been touched or harassed at all. He's even de-warded this little pool here, making sure that they don't have vision and they can't block that easy camp, which he needs to be able to farm. We do see a rocket flying towards top. Tiny Invis rune. He gets scouted though. I believe Lycan actually saw him use that Invis rune. Not to mention there's actually a sentry ward here, which can also provide vision. I think Lycan knows that he's Invis, but has he told his team? Has he actually seen? Rasta does not seem to know, and we're going to see Tiny coming in from behind. Level 5, that's a lot of nuke damage potential, but at the same time, VS is there with a stun. Rasta, oh, needs to be careful. Power shot. Oh,